You have seen them online, on Pinterest, in architecture reviews, in architecture magazines, in videos, while traveling. You've seen them everywhere. You've seen giant skyscrapers with trees all around them. Biophilic design is a concept that seeks to integrate natural elements into the built environment and has an aura of environmental sustainability. Architects' visions of tree-covered skyscrapers not only has become a common trend since the early 2010s, it now becomes a normal expectation when we see certain design proposals from major architecture firms today. Architects' visions of these tree-covered skyscrapers tend to conflate urban modernity with a naturalistic forest-like splendor. These beautiful green buildings and their lush vertical gardens promise not just to beautify urban landscapes, but really look like absolute beacons of hope in concrete jungles, promising cleaner air, reduced urban heat islands, and an enhanced connection with nature amid the steel and glass cityscapes. Welcome back to the Unraveling Design podcast. My name is Natalie. I am the founder and creator of Unraveling Architecture on YouTube. This is a paired podcast that relates to the newest release that has more visuals if you're interested in a video format of today's episode. Today, we are talking about biophilic design and why tree-covered skyscrapers aren't actually that great. So let's unravel this concept and take a closer critical look. The concept of biophilia, the inherent human affinity for nature, has deep roots that trace back to our evolutionary history. Long before the term was coined, societies across the globe have intuitively harmonized their built environments with nature. Hanging gardens of Babylon and traditional Japanese tea houses feature subtle interplays of architecture and nature, reflecting early manifestations of biophilia in human history. It was not until 1984, however, that the theory of biophilia was articulated by Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson in his book aptly titled Biophilia. Wilson's hypothesis argued for a genetically based human need to affiliate with life and lifelike processes due to our extensive evolutionary history. This theory sparked entirely new ways of perceiving the relationship between humans and their environment. In the early 2000s, spurred by Wilson's biophilia hypothesis and growing environmental concerns, architects like Qian Yun began to pioneer ecological design. Yun, known as the father of bioclimatic skyscrapers, led the change in creating buildings that functioned as, quote, self-contained ecosystems, fusing aesthetics with viable environmental strategies. By the 2010s, the concept of biophilic design had and well truly entered the mainstream architectural landscape, most notably with the stellar rise of these tree-covered skyscrapers. Projects like Bosco Verticale in Milan, which was completed in 2014, captivated the world's attention with their breathtaking vertical forest. These developments represented a tangible realization of Wilson's earlier insights into our innate need to reconnect with nature. In contemporary society, our increasing urbanization and reliance on technology have furthered the divide between human beings and the natural world, leading to what has been coined the nature deficit disorder. This disconnect not only affects our physical health, but has profound implications on our psychological well-being. According to a study published in Science Direct in 2021, incorporating biophilic design in our office settings through various sensory elements beyond just visuals can significantly enhance human well-being. A publication in Springer in 2018 discussed the human and nature relationship, emphasizing the restorative benefits that nature has on health, well-being, and even cognitive function, which furthermore just asserts this critical role of biophilic design in bringing these benefits into our workspace and living environments. Projects such as the Bosco Verticale demonstrate the enduring appeal of biophilic concept, influencing our collective architectural aspirations toward environmental sustainability. Yet it prompts us to wonder whether these densely packed forest structures are genuinely as environmentally friendly as they claim to be, or has this slowly become a new way to greenwash and trick the public into thinking this is actually a new sustainable building. The popular notion that greenery equates to sustainability has gained substantial traction in both consumer preferences but also in real estate development. This belief is partly founded on the very obvious benefits of plant life in urban settings. We learned all this way back when, right? But plants absorb carbon dioxide, provide oxygen, create microclimates, can cool cities, thus reducing the urban heat island effect. A study from the University of Manchester suggests that green roofs could reduce the urban heat islands as much as 4 degrees Celsius. However, there's a nuanced disconnect between the green aesthetic and the broader, more comprehensive concept of sustainability. For more context, urban areas are substantial contributors to global CO2 emissions, despite occupying a relatively small fraction of the Earth's land surface. A study published in Nature Communications suggests that while urban areas only cover about 0.9 of the global land surface, they can contribute over 70% of global CO2 emissions when considering the total emissions inclusive of upstream activities associated with the urban consumption. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Like, we're all sharing resources in the urban environment versus rural. How is that possible? The population of urban versus rural areas greatly impacts this dynamic. As of 2018, 55% of the world's population live in urban areas, a proportion that is expected to inflate to 68% by 2050. Urban areas are typically more densely populated, resulting in higher energy use, transportation needs, and greater waste generation per unit area than a rural setting. Thus, it contributes disproportionately to emissions. But urban areas typically feel far more disconnected to nature, leading to this strong desire to support these green vertical gardens. What makes architecture sustainable? Sustainability in architecture encompasses not just the integration of plants, but also far more serious considerations like building material, energy use, water management, and long term operational efficiency. Aesthetic choices, while visually appealing, can sometimes overshadow these aspects of truly functional sustainability. For instance, the use of green walls and rooftop gardens have a very good feel good appeal, but without proper ecological integrations, such features can often consume excessive amounts of water and energy. This kind of relates back to how architecture school works, at least within the past 10 years, which I can speak more to. I'm not sure how it was, 30 years ago, but I cannot tell you how many architecture reviews I personally sat through, myself included, where everyone, in order to adhere with the studio brief in creating a sustainable building, would slap a green roof onto a concrete building. This is such a paradoxical statement considering concrete is a very dangerous material to work with, not sustainable. Even alternatives when using concrete, like integrating fly ash with your Portland cement, still makes concrete a very unsustainable material, yet long lasting material to work with. So that's kind of the trade off that you get. But yeah, I mean, students all the time are just taught to slap a green roof onto your building and call it a day. And that's what makes it sustainable. So it calls into question, do these lush designs just minimize the environmental impact so that the investment is worth it? The general public seems to love this aesthetic, the biophilic aesthetic and trend. You see pictures online everywhere, but it is not actually sustainable because a lot of these projects don't have much thought behind them. Consumer and developer preferences are often swayed by the allure of green aesthetics due to their visual, psychological, and assumed environmental benefit. A Nelson Global online study revealed that 81% of respondents felt strongly that companies should improve their environment, reflecting the consumer market that is inclined toward green features. This eco consciousness fuels the market demand and can lead developers to focus on green aesthetics as a sales strategy, sometimes at the expense of deeper sustainability measures. The fact that green certified homes, for instance, sold at a premium price of about 3 to 5% compared to non certified homes in 2020, according to a Redfin report, underscores the market's inclination toward visible green features. This market dynamic can result in a phenomenon known as greenwashing, where the ecological benefits are simply overstated, leaving unaddressed the more substantial sustainable practices that are for truly green architecture. In contemporary architectural renderings that a lot of these firms are producing, the inclusion of lush vegetation sometimes serves more as a superficial gesture rather than a holistic approach to sustainability. Architecture firms may prioritize the aesthetics and green elements in their renderings while overlooking the more critical aspects, and this in turn helps sell their project, their renders, to the client because the client likes it. Because this is a trend, it creates a misleading perception of sustainability. Let's debunk the green facade. First and foremost, the underlying cost of maintaining such a living ecosystem is substantial, especially when considering your water usage. Statistics show that vertical gardens can require significantly more amounts of water, often surpassing the irrigation needs of traditional ground level gardens by a very noticeable margin. Therefore, questioning their suitability in regions that have water scarcity. The Coxia Forum in Madrid is a vertical garden which spans over 24 meters in height and covering about 460 square meters with approximately 15,000 plants. Reports suggest that maintaining such densely planted facades often requires constant irrigation, potentially amounting to hundreds of liters of water daily, depending on the season. This case underscores the challenges of sustaining a vertical garden, especially in this less water abundant environment. From a structural standpoint, tree covered skyscrapers necessitate considerably more resources beyond than what meets the eye. They require specialized frameworks to support the added weight and complexity of the soil, but also its extensive root system. This in turn translates into greater material use and subsequently more embodied energy from the construction phase. Maintenance of these vertical forests also introduce safety hazards, and its associated costs can be exponentially higher than those for maintaining traditional gardens due to the difficulty in accessing elevated and vertical spaces for landscaping tasks. One must consider the broader environmental implications of these high rise ecosystems. Tree covered skyscrapers demand substantial energy for the construction and long term maintenance of their very green facades, which can eclipse the energy saved through their proposed insulation benefits. Furthermore, it can affect and will affect local biodiversity if you are introducing non native species or just simply monopolizing areas that might have otherwise supported a wider variety of life if no structure was built. In practice, some of these green structures may underperform against their projected energy models. By not meeting these expectations, they serve as a caveat that the journey toward true energy efficiency in skyscraper design involves way more than just a green facade. Let's talk about the Bosco Verticale in a little bit more detail. If you don't know what it looks like, feel free to look up a picture, but guaranteed you've seen a photo of this structure. It's located in Milan, Italy, and indeed pushed the boundaries of architecture. The building was commissioned by the developer Heinz and was designed by the architect Stefano Boari. The towers were completed in 2014 and have since become a landmark. The project incorporates over 900 trees along thousands of plants and shrubs along its facade. The trees and plants integrated into the Bosco Verticale are estimated to absorb over 30 tons of CO2 annually. This significant contribution to air purification underscores the building's role in mitigating urban pollution. It also hosts over 20 species of birds and attracts various insects to the region. The structural design of the Bosco Verticale had to account for the significant additional weight of both the trees and the soil needed to support them. The trees were chosen for their durability and adaptability, and they vary in height of about 9 meters, which is approximately 30 feet. To accommodate this, the engineering team incorporated a robust reinforcement system to the building structure. According to Bowery's firm, considerable efforts in engineering were undertaken to ensure that the towers could handle load, with each tower supporting the equivalent green surface of around 30,000 square meters of forest. The structure had to now consider the dynamic forces exerted by plants and trees, including their root system, plus the added complexity of wind forces acting on the vegetation. By beefing up the structure, consider the emissions from material production, transportation, and the construction process itself. And yes, it is concrete. There are considerations regarding the adaptation of trees to the high rise environment and their long term viability. The selected species underwent testing through wind tunnels to simulate the conditions that they would face at various heights. But despite these precautions, after the completion of the towers, reports suggested difficulties with the tree's adaptation, necessitating ongoing maintenance and replacement. Also, it is estimated that each tree required approximately 2,000 liters of water per year during their initial years of growth. This highlights the potential strain on water resources in urban areas, especially in regions that are facing water scarcity, like we talked about. These challenges were not merely physical or engineering related. They also encompass the biological complexities of creating a sustainable living environment, such as a diverse array of plants and trees at height. The maintenance of this living green facade involves a team of botanists who regularly have to inspect and tend to the vertical forest using specialized equipment. If you look up pictures of the botanists tending the trees at the Bosco Verticale, they are actually on pulley systems and they're hanging off the side of the building to tend to the plants. There has to be dedicated maintenance regimes to address the unique demands of integrating nature with architecture. Issues such as soil erosion, plant stress, undermine the viability of these installations over time. Most importantly, projects like the Bosco Verticale may be celebrated for their green features, but can detract from more significant environmental challenges such as urban sprawl, habitat loss, and carbon emissions from transportation. While vertical gardens may enhance urban biodiversity to some extent, their impact is often limited compared to natural ecosystems. The species diversity often supported by vertical gardens tends to be less than what would be found in natural forests, potentially reducing their effectiveness in supporting local ecosystems. And while vegetation can help cool urban environments, it's important to measure whether the cooling effect of the plants significantly counters the heat generated by additional water usage, maintenance, and the building itself. While Bosco Verticale represents an innovative design concept, its success relies heavily on the rigorous engineering and biological research that create truly livable and urban environments. While visually stunning, this project has sparked a trend where architects may prioritize superficial green features without thoroughly analyzing sustainability of their proposals. To clarify, I am not bashing on this project. I think it's a beautiful project. They did a wonderful job, but this project sparked a ongoing trend that we still see today. And this trend that I'm referring to is when architects simply add trees as a superficial gesture, neglecting a holistic approach needed for truly sustainable architecture. Numerous case studies highlight sustainability challenges like the treehouse in Singapore, not just Bosco Verticale, but for the treehouse. Despite its vertical garden design, it falls short on energy efficiency. Problems like insufficient sunlight in living areas and the high energy demand for maintaining vegetation have undermined its overall energy performance. One Central Park in Sydney, Australia, also features lush vertical gardens. However, studies have shown that the building's energy performance have fallen short of expectations. The greenery, while aesthetically pleasing, have not provided the anticipated insulation benefits, and the extensive irrigation and maintenance required for these gardens have just added a lot more energy consumption. So, where do we go from here? It's essential for architects and designers to adopt a comprehensive approach to sustainable design that considers all aspects of building design and construction beyond just the visual representation of greenery and renders. To adopt a comprehensive approach to sustainability that transcends the mere visual representation of greenery and delves into meaningful, holistic practices, architects and designers can consider my following recommendations that have been tried and true and the strategies across all stages of design and construction. Number one, site. This is probably hands down one of the most important considerations to make. Choose locations that have minimal ecological value and avoid displacing natural habitats. Do extensive orientation studies. We should be designing buildings that take advantage of natural lighting and heating, reducing dependence on artificial lighting and heating. We should be integrating passive house design strategies by incorporating these design elements that enhance the natural ventilation, optimal daylight use, and thermal comfort without relying on mechanical systems, just simply by rotating the building about like 45 degrees this way or that way. It's such an easy fix, which brings me to the second point, energy efficiency. So, just by rotating your building, doing a lot of extensive solar studies and site orientation studies, we can push passive design strategies a step further, right? Where are we getting our energy sources from? Can we integrate solar panels, wind turbines, even geothermal energy systems to supply the building's energy? Energy modeling software, there are so many these days. There's Energy Plus, Open Studio, Design Builder. Revit also has been experimenting with early stage energy analysis software integration, but use these advanced tools to simulate energy performance and optimize the design for energy conservation. Number three, water conservation. Implement systems that can collect rainwater for irrigation and non-potable uses. This would kind of impact your roofing design and structure, but this is what architects do. We come up with designs and we solve these problems. Water efficient landscaping is another method that you can consider using. Work with very experienced landscape architects who understand efficient landscaping. And of course, you have your low flow fixtures that could be installed in kitchens and bathrooms that also help reduce water use. Number four, material efficiency and waste reduction. Select materials with low embodied energy that are locally sourced, recyclable, and sustainably harvested. If you're building a project in Texas, don't source your travertine tiles from Italy. Simple as that. Plan for reduction, reuse, and recycling of any construction waste to minimize landfill impact. Number five, indoor environmental quality, also known as IEQ. When we start integrating natural ventilation and daylighting, maximize the fresh airflow and natural light, which not only is better for the building, but it does improve occupant comfort and overall health. Low emitting materials like non toxic low VOC, which stands for volatile organic compound material, also enhance indoor air quality. Number six, design for long term but also adaptive reuse later. Consider how your building will be used in the future and allow the building to be adapted rather than just demolished. But also focus on creating structures that are built to last, reducing the need for frequent renovations or reconstructions. Number seven, biodiversity preservation. Incorporating green roofs and walls beyond just aesthetics. These features can contribute to biodiversity when used correctly and also helps with stormwater management and insulation. Landscaping for wildlife as well. Design the outdoor spaces that support the local flora and fauna, promoting a good ecological balance. My last consideration is the life cycle assessment, LCA. Essentially, what the life cycle assessment does is that it evaluates the environmental impacts of materials and design over their entire cycle of use, cradle to grave, aiming to minimize their ecological footprint. Adopting these strategies can lead architects and designers to produce buildings that are not just environmentally responsible, but also economically viable. It's essential to view sustainability as a comprehensive, multidimensional approach that influences every decision in design and construction process. As we move forward, we need to address the urgent challenges that have been posed by climate change and resource depletion. By implementing robust sustainability standards, we can pave the way for a more sustainable and resilient built environment that minimizes its environmental footprint and contributes overall to a greener, healthier future. And yeah, in a nutshell, that is why tree covered skyscrapers aren't necessarily that great. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, my name is Natalie. I'm also on YouTube if you like videos instead of podcasts. I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day and gets to go outside today.